kung yung ba ay na-violate yung cost na provided by law, no? Pwede ba yun by law ay talagang...
Maybe we can recognize Chairman
Yes.
Garcia to answer the query of the good
Yes.
attorney.
Actually, Mr. Chair, yung query po kasi ay addressed really to the Parliament because it's the Parliament that enacted the law which set aside all accreditations and opening up the accreditation, meaning back to zero. The Comelec will just follow what the Parliament had said. So we will open the accreditation. We will set aside the accreditation of duly accredited political parties already. We are going to be back to zero.
Did the law that they passed say that they'll back to zero? That really,
Yes,
huh?
yes, Mr. Chair. It was passed last week. It's the Parliament actually.
Okay,
Mr. Chair.
may we recognize Attorney Mary Ann Arnado?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Allow me to present the position paper of the settler communities because we are directly affected with the revocation of the sectoral accreditation. The settler community sector, predominantly Christians, is a marginalized minority in the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region. This is the reason why the framers of the Bangsamoro Organic Law made sure that the settler communities will have a voice and equitable representation in the Bangsamoro Parliament with concomitant rights to freely choose their own representatives. We used to be at the sidelines, silent and subservient to the affairs of the regional government. We dared not speak nor participate out of fear and indifference. We used to believe that our participation would not change anything, so that silence became our refuge and our way to survive and thrive. But all this have radically changed after the ratification of the Bangsamoro Organic Law and the establishment of the BARM. For the first time in the history of the Bangsamoro, settler communities are afforded reserved seats in the Bangsamoro Parliament. Our voices and participation in governance and access to various programs have dramatically improved within an inclusive BARM. In 2024, we started to convene and organize ourselves to be able to participate in choosing our sectoral representatives. Now we are gaining strength. We are no longer alone and left to ourselves. We are now moving united with various settler communities from as far as Basilan, Tawi-Tawi, and mainland Maguindanao, Lanao, SGA, and Cotabato. We also stand in solidarity with other marginalized sectors like women, youth, ulama, traditional leaders, and non-Moro indigenous peoples in the truest essence of dialogue of life and faith. After we diligently followed all required processes and submitted the necessary documents, the Office for Settler Communities certified around 268 settler communities organizations who have successfully established verifiable track record in serving the needs and promoting the welfare of settlers. After securing our certification in the months leading to the May 2025 election, we decided to submit all necessary documents and undergo the rigorous and time-sensitive accreditation processes with the Comelec. The process was tedious, the fees prohibitive, and the legal requisites to qualify for accreditation too technical for grassroots organizations who have little access to legal services. Yet we persisted and followed the process, emboldened by the faith that this time it is different. Government and the MILF are in transition and mutually implementing genuine electoral and political reforms. We will have a fair chance. This is worth fighting for. Last January 28, 2026, we were shocked, dismayed, and disgusted that the BTA Parliament amended the Bangsamoro Electoral Code, which arbitrarily revoked the certification of all sectoral organizations, including the settler communities. By sheer legislative action and without any consultation, the BTA took the hopes of thousands of Christian settlers in the BARM. The BTA literally canceled our much-cherished certification and is requiring us to start anew. Making matters worse, the BTA Parliament changed the manner of election for the sectors from sectoral assemblies to direct plurality of valid votes cast for the respective sector. This, under the BEC, the shift to popular automated election for sectoral representative is contingent upon the prior establishment of a special registration of sectoral voters pursuant to Section 2, Article 10 of the BEC. Because it's very difficult to determine who will be voting for the sector. So right now, the special registration, the Parliament changed the manner of election to direct plurality of votes. And that will practically take away the reserved seats for the marginalized sectors and leave us all at the mercy of the majority, who can now dictate who will be representing the settlers in the Parliament. It is in effect foreclosing the parliamentary seats reserved for settlers under the organic law. It is called reserved precisely because there is no way Christians will be able to compete with the majority in a popular election. We are no strangers to the election in the Philippines, especially in the BARM. Instead of the promised electoral reform, this will slide back to the usual ways. Therefore, we are elevating our appeal to the Senate to help us secure what is rightfully reserved for the marginalized sector. Give to the women what is due for the women, give to the youth what is reserved for them, and give to the Christian settler what is due to us. We also appeal to President Bongbong Marcos to please protect us settler communities and marginalized sectors in the BARM. We pray that the marginalized sectors, including the Christian settlers, will be unified, strengthened, and empowered, and meaningfully take part in making the BARM an inclusive, just, peaceful, and prosperous homeland for diverse peoples and cultures. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much. This is the first time I've actually encountered BAA 88. So, and today is the only day that I found out that actually your legislation from the Bangsamoro Transition Authority is all about. What the crafters of the BOL and Attorney Nagib was with me there because he was my aide when we were crafting this. The idea really was to give these seats to particular sectors. And you're absolutely correct na ayaw natin mabastardize yan. Like the party list system now that we're trying very hard to amend with the recommendations also of the chairperson of the Comelec and all the members of the Comelec. Because under the law, under the Constitution, when Justice Ascuna passed the Constitution, they basically mentioned that these are marginalized sectors of society. And ngayon, bilyonaryo yung mga members ng party list system. Sila pala marginalized. Bilyonaryo na, hindi pa mahanap yung iba. So ang punto namin dyan is, ano nangyari along the way? And I guess that's what they're also complaining when we wrote this BOL, that we wanted to make it true to representation, to what is really truly representation that we itemized and sectors that we made sure that we be represented by the Parliament. So I'm saddened by that fact, if that is the case. Our concept, our idea for equal representation with the indigenous people, settler communities, etc., is now watered down. No? I have to study this BA. But we respect, I have to put this on record, and my good colleague, Senator Legarda, agrees with me. We also respect the autonomous nature of their parliament. You have the right to debate, you have the right to fight it out in Parliament and eventually put that on a vote. No? Whether we like it or not, that is the process. Although, of course, I would be heartbroken to see that it will now become similar to what is the party list system now, which is no longer marginalized. You know, when I was in my first term in Congress, I used to have Kakispin Beltran. There, yung mga party list na talagang mahihirap, yung labor sector na laborer talaga na representing their sector. All of a sudden, after several years and several, I guess, interpretation of the party list law, puro bilyonaryo na, may mga helicopter pa yung mga party list members. So sabi ko, ano na nangyari doon? Iba't iba na yung iba't iba ng representation, di nang marginalized. So, and that's what we're trying to correct now. And the Senate President is pushing for the amendments to the party list law. But again, as I said, we respect though the Parliament, to be able to enact their laws. Before I recognize Attorney Nagib, I promised our good colleague the time. So Senator Legarda, you recognize, Madam.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I welcome all of you to the Senate once again, and this is of great importance and interest to us, of course. Before I tell you of what we have done, not just in terms of legislation, but in terms of budgetary amendments for this year, allow me to just clarify the very important position that Attorney Arnado had mentioned. May I know the position of the BTA regarding the concern that there should be no new process of accreditation of political parties as well as sectoral organizations as provided for, in my understanding, this new legislation. Is it BAA 88? Is that correct? We want to understand the wisdom behind this, the impact to the settler communities and the marginalized communities, and may we know, does this have any implication regarding the elections and perhaps the Comelec's view on this? Because I must admit, this is new to me. I understand it was just enacted by the BTA last week. Number one, may connection ba ho ito at anong implikasyon sa ating magiging halalan? Pangalawa, what was the wisdom behind it? Does it mean that we are going back to zero as the implication seems? And will it really lose access? Will marginalized sectors lose access to having a voice in Parliament? So anyone from the BTA may answer. We hear you loud and clear. We want to find a solution here that will bring the long dreamed of just and lasting peace. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Senator. Ganito po, para mas naintindihan ng mga kasama natin, because this was already debated in the Parliament and a vote has been taken.
I understand it is already
yes.
enacted into law.
Yes.
Ang tanong ko po ay, don't get me wrong,
Opo.
hindi po kami naghihimasok.
Opo.
We respect your your autonomy, and we just want to understand the wisdom because it was brought to our attention.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes po. Una ho ay kailangan nating baguhin yung system of election as provided in the original electoral code. Kasi po, hindi yun ang nasa Constitution at nasa organic law. Ang sinasabi ho ng Constitution natin in Article 10, yung representation in the Bangsamoro Autonomous Assembly ay by election. Unfortunately, nung ginawa yung electoral code, it is not by election. It is by assemblies ng mga organizations. So, pag in-stretch ho natin masyado yung interpretation na yon, and there are pending petitions now before the Supreme Court questioning the constitutionality of that provision. So, bumalik ho tayo doon. Pangalawa ho, yung organic law mismo nagpo-provide na election yan, yung sectors. Ang exception lang ay yung non-Moro indigenous people. So, naging consistent tayo doon sa mandato ng organic law na yun lang ay exempt natin. Pangalawa ho ay wala hong deprivation doon sa representation by the concerned sector. Hindi ho pupunta dyan ang hindi kabahagi ng sektor na yun. Halimbawa ho, kami, we will not intrude into the sector of the non-Moro indigenous or the settlers. Sila rin po lang ang pwedeng iboto under BAA 88. Wala hong ibang pwedeng pumasok doon na sector na hindi kabahagi ng sector na yun. Ang check ho doon ay dalawa. Una, they need to belong to a sectoral organization. Second, that sectoral organization will be accredited by the appropriate office or ministry. So if you are non-Moro indigenous people, the MIPA will have to accredit you. Sila ho yung may hawak ng ministry na yun. So they'll know kung yung organization mo na nandun ka, ikaw yung ay kabahagi ka ng sector. So nandun pa rin yung check. Ang binago lang ho natin ay yung manner of election, ma'am. Kasi po, una, hindi ho tumpak doon sa Constitution. Ang pangalawa ho ay wala sa BOL. Pangatlo ho, ma'am, ay tedious yung process na ina-outline. Kasi dalawa naman ho talaga yung check doon sa legitimacy ng sector. Una ho ay yung pool of candidates na panggagalingan nun. Kailangan kung sector ka lang. Pangalawa ho ay yung manner of electing it. I mean, sino ang pwedeng bumoto sa kanila? Yung pong sector na bahagi, wala ho tayong binago doon. Binago lang ho natin yung manner of election. At ang ginaya ho natin ay yung proposal ninyo, ma'am, na ang election na ay at large. Pero walang ibang mapipili na hindi ka bahagi ng sector na yon. Pero magbo-vote na lahat. Kasi ho, yung unang in-outline na process, kinontrol natin yung sectoral selection at yung manner of voting. At masyadong complicated yung manner of voting. Ang kakailanganin ni Comelec, if we do that, hindi tayo magkaka-election this year. Kasi ire-require natin si Commission on Elections na mag-register. In the registration ng mga botante, mamimili siya ng 3 sektor. Sasabihin niya, itong sector 1, 2, 3 ang sektor na bobotuhan ko. Now, pag nagawa mo na yon, you have that system, ita-translate mo pa yan doon sa precinct level mismo. Yung electoral board naman ang tuturuan mo na makikilala niya yung botanting yon at malalaman niya na ang pinili niyang sektor ay yung 3. Kasi ibibigay mo sa kanya yung balota. If we do that manner of election, hindi ho tayo magkaka-election, ma'am. Kaya ho talagang ang ginawa natin, we simplified it. We've seen your proposal, yun ho ang ginaya namin. Para meron kang integrity doon sa sector na yon. Pero yung manner of
I
election mo
don't
ay...
understand when you say, sir, my proposal. What do you mean?
Yung proposal ho ninyo na nabasa namin doon sa... opo, kung paano yung sectoral representation sa... Opo. Yun ho ang manner ng pagpili.
You referring to the Bangsamoro Parliament Forum? The discussions when you say my proposal? Was it a personal proposal?
Nasa Senate Bill 342 po yun.
A bill I filed 13 years ago.
Yes.
Good research.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
We researched that.
Okay.
Tama po, kasi we were in a
Ako palang
quandary
author
paano.
niyan.
Opo.
Okay. So I filed the bill in 2013. That was my second term. And you adopted
Yes,
a
ma'am.
bill I filed. Talagang ahead of my time, di ba?
Yes.
Tinatanong kita ngayon sa wisdom ng BAA 88.
Opo.
Bill ko pala ng 2013 ang ginawa niyong basihan.
Opo, kasi
Sinabi mo yan para wag na ako magtanong kung ano yung
hindi po,
wisdom
pero
nun.
in reality, matagal na debate na yun, ma'am. Paano
No,
i-operationalize?
the fact that I filed it in my second term 13 years ago, and you use that as the basis for your legislation in the BTA, I must have studied it thoroughly then, but why only now? And okay, my question is, did you consult the settler communities, the non-Moro indigenous peoples, etc., in all of that? You went through the process and sought their and consulted them.
Yes, ma'am. Opo, nag-public consultation ho. In fact ho, yung representative nung settler community in the BTA Parliament voted yes in favor of this one. Ganon din ho yung mga political parties na kasama namin. Hindi naman po lahat, pero yung pong mga kasama natin, nag-consultation din ho. At yung representative ho nila mismo sa BTA.
We take note of that. And thank you for acknowledging the authorship of the bill. Pwede palang ganon, magpa-file sa national, i-adapt. Kasi ang ginagawa ko po, para alam ng lahat, from before, I would always share my legislation, my bills, my resolutions, not just sa Senate, sa Congress, syempre, kasi bicameral, but also sa Bangsamoro. Yeah, I've always tried to share my wisdom, whatever. Ako pala ang author nung BAA 88 na tinatanong natin. 2013.
Galit mo na yung MILF.
Hindi sila galit sa akin. Hindi. No, ibig sabihin, they based it on a 2013 bill. Way back in 2013. So I'm trying to understand it. So my question to the Comelec, does this have any bearing on the conduct of the elections? Will it make it more difficult? Or is it more convenient? Chair George Garcia, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, Your Honor. yung una po muna yung tanong na how will this affect the election? This will affect the date of the conduct of the election. Definitely, Madam Chair, Mr. Chair, Your Honor, dapat kakayanin namin ng May 2026 Bangsamoro parliamentary election. If we are going to implement solely the districting, BAA number 86. But because of the enactment of BAA number 88, of which we are going to set aside all accredited political parties, all accredited sectoral organizations, and we will accept once again the filing of petitions for accreditations of several thousands of filers, it will take us at least 3 to 4 months or even 4 months or more to come up with a list of accredited political parties and sectoral organizations. Kasi po, Mr. Chair, yung pong mga names ng political parties, including the logo, and the names of the sectoral organizations, which in this case, under BAA 88, tao na po ang i-elect ng mga mamamayan, hindi po names ng sectoral organizations will have to be printed in the ballots. Now, will this expedite or will this make easier the job of Comelec? Wala pa po kaming kopya, narinig lang po namin, but I think yes. The reason why, Mr. Chair, is because, ganito po, kung hindi nagbago o hindi nila binago yung manner of election, by 2028, a single voter in the Bangsamoro will have 4 ballots. 3 ballots, 1 ballot each per sector, and 1 ballot for the national and local elections. In fact, we are required under the election code before nilang binago na mag-conduct ng re-registration of voters so that we will ask each and every voter in the 2.3 million voting population of the Bangsamoro, ano yung mga sectors ang gusto nyo? Wala pa po kaming nagagawa na gano'n. Wala po tayong classification ng kung anong sektor kabilang ang isang botante.
Just to intercede. Pero as one of the, as the author and sponsor of the Bangsamoro Organic Law, we wanted to make it exact nga eh. Women, youth, settlers, IP. Alam niyo yung nangyari nito sa party list system, bahala na sila. They claim to be women, but they're not really represent the women's interest. It's political interest, and so on and so forth. We actually patterned it under the European system. It was a European party list na walang face. It was just the idea of the party list, of the representation. That was the idea sana, Chairman. That's why, kung babalik tayo sa kanila, kung gagawin natin party list natin, Diyos ko Lord, God help BARM. Diba? So yun lang, Madam Chair, Madam Senator, my worry lang is, baka nga, ma-water down. So kung magiging party list lang yun, dapat yan, may representation talaga. It should be women, 1 box for women, 1 box for youth. Naka-enumerate yan eh, under the BOL.
Meron po, meron po lahat. Properly represented ang lahat ng sectors. Ang manner of election lang, Mr. Chair.
I don't think we'll have a problem because we already established earlier that we will not be synchronized. And therefore, it's just going to be a special election every 3 years. So definitely, hindi na kailangan 4 ballots yun. Pwede nang 1 ballot lang for the BARM elections, correct?
Kung hindi po nila binago yung BAA 8, kung hindi po nila pinasa yung BAA 88, at yung susundin natin, yung original election code, yun po, we will be giving 4 ballots per voter.
Okay.
Sinasabi niyo po, Mr. Chair, na tama po yung pagpasa. Ito para maliwanag kasi yung sinasabi naman ni Chair at yung gusto natin na representante ang mga sektor nandyan. Babasahin ko, 2013, nag-file po ako ng panukalang batas. At the time, SB 342, okay, July 2013. This bill seeks to provide the enabling law for the implementation of the provision on local sectoral representation provided under Republic Act 7160, otherwise known as the Local Government Code of 1991. The Constitution encourages non-governmental, community-based, or sectoral organizations that promote the welfare of the nation. It also respects the role of independent people's organizations to enable the people to pursue and protect within the democratic framework their legitimate and collective interests and aspirations through peaceful and lawful means. Consistent with these state policies, Article 10, Section 9 provides that the legislative bodies of local governments shall have sectoral representation as may be prescribed by law, which essentially provides a venue for community-based organizations to participate in formal local governance processes. Local sectoral representation is an important step towards advancing the decentralization in the Philippine governmental system. Decentralization, among others, seeks to bring government closer to the people, making it more responsive to local needs, harness the participation of grassroots communities in public policy making. Participation of local sectoral groups in the local legislative bodies will help ensure that the interests of marginalized sectors are articulated, and this will allow them to contribute in making decisions that directly affect their social, political, and economic concerns. Section 41, paragraph C of RA 7160 sought to pursue the constitutional provisions on local sectoral representation. However, 15 years since the enactment of 7160, remember I wrote this in 2013, at the time 15 years, this important provision remains unimplemented as of 2013 because it requires an enabling law for the same to be implemented, and this bill addresses that need for an enabling law to allow broader representation and participation of community-based and people's organizations in local governance. In view of the foregoing, the immediate passage of this bill is sought, and this is the bill I filed not only for Bangsamoro but for all local governments, because an enabling law was needed from the 1991 Local Government Code, and Congress was remiss in enacting it. That's why, even as a very young senator then, I saw the need for an enabling law, and therefore this bill was filed way back 13 years ago. Huh? You're still a young senator. Yeah. Okay. So when I was a younger senator, hindi napasa ito. And just so that the body knows, up to this time, hindi pa po nababatas, na isa sa batas, napakahalaga. Did I refile it? I will refile it because this will give a voice, as the chair says, to the women, to the indigenous people, to the vulnerable populations. Ito ang kailangan talaga, grassroots communities to have representation. So I am heartened to know that this was used as a basis for empowering community-based communities, both Moro and non-Moro, Muslim and non-Muslim. Hopefully, I did not see BAA 88. Hopefully, the intent of your BAA 88, for which this bill is your inspiration, as you say, I hope it did not divert from the intent of this law, which is much needed because it is an enabling law as mandated by the Constitution. So having said that, I am heartened that a 13-year-old bill, which the national government has not yet, Congress and national, have not yet prioritized, and I'm now emboldened to refile it and to push for it. And second, I hear loud and clear what the chair said, that if we did not pass it through the Bangsamoro Parliament, the elections cannot be held this year. Ibig nyo sabihin, at saka baka apat ang masalimuot yung proseso, ganun ba yun?
Yes po, Madam Chair. Kung natuloy po yung halalan ngayon na hindi po na-reset o hindi po na-postpone, there will be no direct election of the sectoral
Sectors.
organizations. Assembly lang po.
So nakabuti po. So, ibig sabihin po, itong inspirasyon na sinabi niyong basihan ng BAA 88, hindi po na etsepuera ang mga marginalized at vulnerable populations at communities. Sa halip, ito po ay magbibigay daan para po magkaboses at representasyon ng ating mga kababaihan at mga katutubo at ang mga non-Muslim groups. Ganun ba ho ang inyong persepsyon, Chair?
Yes po, Madam Chair. In fact, if I may, Madam Chair, we received several years na po, ang daming mga local officials, local chief executive, ang naghihingi sa Comelec ng implementing rules or regulation on the provision of 7160. Ang sabi po namin, kailangan po ng isang legislation. And that's the
ito na po,
legislation.
ito na nga. Buti na hungkat natin, is that the right Filipino word? I'm glad that we're able to unearth my 13-year-old bill, which is languishing in the Senate archives. I will refile it on Monday. I may even stand on the floor to deliver a privileged speech and encourage the local government committee to hear it. Today, I can file it today. Yes, but we have to update it. We have to update it. Yes, this is not, hindi naman to unahan. In fact, kung gusto mo i-co-author ito, kasi napakahaba na ng pending ito. So, thank you. I mean, we are enlightened by the wisdom of the chair, chair of the Comelec, who tells us it is essential that it is also being asked by other local governments. At ang balik nyo, ang sagot nyo ay wala pang enabling law.